Y'all the best, man. Hey, just don't make sure I don't get that moron flag.
No, sir. Not at all.
Thanks, Coach. Oh, Ronnie Stapler joining us. No, Coach, you are not going to get the moron of the year plaque.
Every weekday morning, wake up with Scott and Drew. It's Talkin' Ball on 97.7 The Zone.
By now, you know about Eagle Masonry and Insulation, and maybe you know that Eagle also does landscaping and dirt work. But how about after paint work? Shower doors, shelving, and mirrors, all taken care of by Eagle, the same Eagle that takes care of all your masonry, insulation, and landscaping needs. Eagle brings the same level of expertise to all these disciplines, and they're ready to provide you with a free quote. The website is the same, insulatewitheagle.com, as is the phone number, 256-755-1556. Give them a call and see what Eagle can do for you. Eagle saves you time. Eagle saves you money. Here in North Alabama, barbecue is a part of what makes our home so special, and great barbecue from Lawlers makes it just that much better. Since 1978, Lawlers has been serving up their delicious barbecued pork, ribs, chicken, ham, and turkey for generations of family get-togethers. Recognized as the best barbecue joint in Alabama for 2 years in a row, Lawlers is thrilled to share their award-winning barbecue for your next family meal or catered event. Order online or stop by any one of their 14 area locations. Lawlers Barbecue, cooked slow, served fast.
What does it mean to be a part of the Southeastern Conference? That you paint your body, your car, and your dog your school colors? Maybe. But it means more than that. It means your alumni network includes the state, the country, and beyond. It means your school ring doubles as your resume. And yeah, you better believe it means more titles, like doctor, CEO, and your honor. Because this is the SEC. And here...
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Hitting the gas, racing to the end zone, touchdown.
Now with Football Sunday Countdown, here's Kevin Winter.
Week number 2 opened Thursday night with the Buffalo Bills beating the Miami Dolphins in South Florida. Of course, much of the focus afterwards fell on Miami quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, who left that game with a concussion. This afternoon, we'll bring you a pair of games on ESPN Radio. Later today, we're in Arizona for the Cardinals and the LA Rams in an NFC West matchup. But up first, it's the Colts and the Packers from historic Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. As we welcome you inside our studio and Football Sunday Countdown presented by Progressive Insurance here on ESPN Radio. I'm Kevin Winter. Progressive Insurance, protect the stuff you love with Renters Insurance. Visit Progressive.com.
97.7 ESPN, The Zone. It's time for the Bama Recap Show, presented by Lawlers Barbecue. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Drew DeArmond and Steve Moulton.
They drag the tight end, they hand it off, and he's got nowhere to go. Stacked up, brought down, turned away by the Bama defense as Alabama will take over on downs. They will hand it off, they'll run to the edge, and they've got a first down and a whole lot more as diving across the 25, balls on the deck. Loose football, Bama says they have it. We'll wait and see. They'll unpile. They say it's Bama football, and the Tide takes it away from the Badgers. Ups back, looks to throw, fires it near side. He's got a man, Williams. Williams at midfield, at the 40, pushed out of bounds, inside Wisconsin's 30-yard line. Somehow the Deuce got loose again and makes his way to the 26 of Wisconsin. Jalen will call the play. 2 wideouts right, 2 tight ends as well. It'll be Miller right up the gut. 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. 34 yards. Jam Miller pushes Alabama further ahead. It is now 27-3. They take the air out once more. Keeping it himself, Milroe cuts it back 5, 4-3, 2-1 touchdown. Jalen Milroe with the block from Jam Miller finds pay dirt, and Alabama pushes the lead to 34-10. And Kalen DeBoer will rush across the field to meet Luke Fickell, shake his hand, and then find television, which wants to get his thoughts after the Tide rolls to an impressive 42-10 victory over Wisconsin.
Did not realize Fox picked up the SEC package rather than the Big Ten package. We welcome you in to this Sunday morning. Yeah, I was looking much like when CBS went from SEC to Big Ten out that game at Auburn. Yeah. I was expected the logo to flip. I was expecting the Fox logo to flip yesterday, too, after 2 weeks of just how did Luke Fickell put it? Where are you, Luke? Luke actually put it like this.
Well, I'll give you guys the same message I just gave them. If you haven't had your ass whooped before, you just did.
Hey, that's why I'm a Luke Fickell guy, man. You don't mince words.
Good morning, Drew DeArmond.
Yeah, it was a business trip on the road. It was kind of funny following Charlie Potter and some of my friends and the beat writers that were there in the press box.
Mm-hmm.
It was they did jump around at the start of the fourth quarter, and then everybody
left. That was the
everybody wanted to get themselves jumping around.
But then it's time to go.
Get those selfies, get those videos. We're jumping around. We're out of the door. So. Yeah. And
they didn't miss any scoring from Wisconsin, by the way.
No, they didn't. And so I'll be honest, the only small complaint I can have out of the entire game is,
injuries.
That's not really a complaint, though. That's just something that's, that's probably the ugly. But the bad, I thought they didn't play the run well enough. I mean, I know they only gave up 10 points, but there were times like they allowed a 17-play touchdown drive where they had 3 or 4 chances to get off the field.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, they didn't trust the QB after we'll talk about the injury. It was early in the game, but I just felt like Alabama didn't do a great job of tackling at times. And then, of course, I thought they missed a few run fits. So they've got to work on that because Georgia's certainly going to test them. But I will say this, Georgia was lucky to escape last night. I mean, Kentucky was, I picked a mauling.
I really expected a rock fight. I did.
I knew Kentucky was good on defense.
There was only the one drive in the fourth quarter was the only time I thought, okay, Kentucky may have a shot here.
I thought. And
then choosing to punt. Anyway.
But I will just say this. They were trying to hide the quarterback the whole game because the only thing that – Vander overrated. That's what I call him anyway. Because if he's a 5-star, then I was. But I mean, he all he can do is run. He's not a very good passer at all. Yeah. Okay, I know that he had a couple drops and some receivers gator arms some stuff. But give me a break. Yeah. I mean, like the fumble that he had in the first half when they finally did try to throw it on back-to-back downs. He doesn't get rid of the ball. Get rid of the football, bro. This isn't 1A Georgia private school, whatever the hell you played. They can't break wide open. You have to anticipate and throw the football.
Throw them open.
And yeah, exactly. He doesn't do that. And so I can understand why he didn't win the job at Georgia.
And then you've got Jalen Milroe. And there was a couple of just dimes. One of them was a touchdown pass where it was just if he's not in the Heisman conversation before, he certainly is now.
His first 2 touchdown passes were both dimes. Really, to be honest with you, all 3 of them because the last one, everybody was complaining they weren't attacking the middle of the field. Well, they did on that last one, and it was a perfect throw to Cuevas to just kind of everybody jump around, jump up, hit the damn exit and get down. You know what I'm saying? Because you're gone.
Jalen Milroe, 12 of 17, 196 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Also ran it 14 times for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. He just is dynamic. He really is.
Well, he is, and I know there was a couple of situations where maybe he missed a read on the short and intermediate passing game. But I'll just say this: you cannot replace explosiveness. because I saw a great example of it on Friday night when I did the James Clemens Huntsville High game. James Clemens had 2 explosive running backs that could take you to the house if you miss a couple tackles. That they gone out the gate, they 50 to 80 yards to the house.
Yeah.
I never felt like that with Wisconsin. I was like, they don't have one guy who can blow the lid off of it. And I will say this, that's one good thing Alabama did defensively, or I thought the best thing. They didn't allow any explosives. They did allow that one drive that bothered you where I felt like and then one time they allowed a third down and long. It was like 3rd and 15, and they threw it short. So you got to make the tackle 10, 11 yards down the field, but they allowed the offensive player, the defender did. I think it was Sab and maybe and Jihad Campbell just run over them.
Yeah.
And then they got it within half a yard, went forward and made it. You got to make the tackle 3 or 4 or 5 yards short. Okay. You can't get overpowered. You can't go for the pick every time. If they're just going to throw short, you just make the guy pay for it. You hammer him and you get off the field.
Yeah.
And so those were a couple of the nitpicks that I had defensively. But when you look at the stats, though, I think they held, like last week, it was 2 for 18 on third down. I think Wisconsin was 3 for 14 on third downs. So
they were 3 for 14.
So they did a good job. And the bottom line is how you're judged on defense. How many points did they score?
10.
So, I mean, they basically did nothing. You're not going to.
Well,
and they led 3-0.
The first drive was very impressive, a 10-yard drive. But then turning it over on downs, I really thought, and especially after the timeout, and Luke I really thought he was going to not go for it after the timeout.
Yeah.
But still going for it, still trying to hit that gas pedal. And stopping it, I thought was a huge point.
Well, yeah, it turned the game a little bit there because Deontay Lawson finally just said enough, and he stuffed him in the backfield. And then Alabama got it going offensively because in every game, Alabama started slow on offense.
Well, but that first drive yesterday was a 10-yard drive, or a 10-play drive, and a missed field goal opportunity.
Yeah, that was the other frustration I was going to say is just missing a field goal, 46 yards. I mean, they South Carolinaed it. You know what I'm saying? Just barely wide. And by the way, biggest gag job of the whole day.
But it's like Shane knew what was coming. Did you see his interview right before halftime or right at halftime? He was, I mean, it's almost like he knew what was coming because he said we just left points on the board, and it just, you could feel his frustration about not building up a big enough lead.
Robbie Ashford cannot play quarterback in the SEC. He just cannot. He can't throw the football, Steve.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that there was, people that I respect that covered him at Auburn that thought he could develop into a passer. I watched him at Hoover, Steve.
Yeah.
He's a great athlete. He needs to run a zone read or an option style offense and throw 5 times a game and hope guys are wide open. He cannot throw the football and sit there and drop back. He holds it too long, and when he does, he doesn't throw it with any accuracy whatsoever. He is a great athlete. No question, but he's playing the wrong sport. He probably should have tried to make a go of it in baseball because
lacrosse.
Because I never believed in him when he was at Hoover. I always thought, this guy's a great athlete, and Hoover will make the playoffs and get to the second or the third round. But when you're talking about winning it all, it'll never happen because he's not going to be able against the higher level teams to complete enough passes for you to win. And that's just the bottom line. And that's where South Carolina got, caught because, and I'll give LSU credit. I mean, they were down 17-0 to come back and get that win and the way they did it. But South Carolina was also their own worst enemy. Steve, look, I tweeted this, posted on my account, whatever you want to say about SEC officiating being embarrassing at times. And I thought it was really nitpicky on the one calling the pick six where they hit the quarterback or actually just bumped him and they threw the flag. But I will say this, as a head coach, you know how they're doing quarterbacks and the way they're calling roughing the passer. And I cannot emphasize enough hammering it home. And this is for Alabama going forward here on the Bama Recap Show. If there is a quick change, do not touch the quarterback. Okay. If you did not touch him to begin with to force the interception or the turnover, if your team is returning a fumble or a pick or interception, do not touch him. I mean, don't even breathe on him because they're looking for an excuse to throw the flag. And that cost South Carolina the game because if they get that pick six to go up 40-29.
Yeah,
T-Bob
Johnny-
Abear is still drunk.
Johnny ball game. Yeah.
It's absolutely.
I really felt like LSU was very fortunate to win that game.
I'm not impressed with LSU so far.
No, I'm not either.
I thought their
Defensively
defense, their defense is better, but it's still
that
below
was a
average.
very low bar.
For them to allow Rocket Sanders to go off the way they did and rush for 240, good luck, guys, because you're not going to beat anybody worth substance because your secondary is already really iffy. And so if South Carolina had not lost Lenora Sellers, you probably lose that game by double figures.
1,000%.
So I'm sorry. LSU, I was high on them in the preseason. I'm not high on them anymore. I don't think they're very good. And
they got a couple of weeks to get it right. They've got UCLA at home, then South Alabama at home before Ole Miss comes calling. Ole Miss was very efficient yesterday.
Well, I would have Ole Miss annihilating them right now.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Yeah.
I mean, Nussmeier is a good player, but he was very fortunate not to get intercepted in the end zone again. And so, and LSU ran it better in the second half. I will say their running game has been pretty decent, but I just don't. And their offense is good, but it's not last year. And so I just don't really believe in LSU right now.
What are you hearing about the potential of a coach getting canned today?
I've heard that there is a emergency Board of Trustees meeting on Sunday in Gainesville.
Yep.
And if I were Scott Strickland and Billy Napier, I would be really nervous that they both may get the zig. Because look, Scott Strickland's hired two football coaches, Clown Mullen, Darth Vader Mullen,
ESPN Mullen.
Yep. He hired Dan, and he's on ESPN for a reason.
Yep.
And he had basically one good year at Florida, in my opinion. That was 20, the COVID year. Then they fell apart.
His best games were always against Saban, though.
And he never beat him.
Never beat him, but it was always very competitive.
He got fired, and then you hire Billy, and it's gotten worse. I mean, I know that I've always thought you still need to give a coach time, but it's changed.
This is year 3.
With this transfer portal, with NIL. I mean, and I think he has improved the recruiting.
And how sloppy they've looked.
But that's the thing. They look so sloppy.
Yeah.
Like they have made no improvement defensively.
Zero.
I mean, they are atrocious on defense.
Yeah.
And he had to change his strength program after last year.
Yeah.
And then also offensively, which is kind of his expertise. I do think the quarterback position is pretty good. And the receivers aren't bad.
Yeah.
But, you didn't hold on to ETN because he got tired of it and he bailed, didn't like the way he was being used.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest mistakes they've made, and he hired the people to evaluate, is their offensive line is horrendous. I was texting with some Gator friends, yesterday, and that's what I told them. I said, look, I think the quarterbacks, and then right after that, Mertz threw a pick six. But I said, to me, though, it's the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so bad.
Yeah.
I said the skill people aren't bad. I mean, they've got Johnson and Ball, that young running back. They've got some receivers they brought in from the transfer portal. I just think that the offensive line is what's holding the O back. And then on defense, they're just atrocious at every level.
Yeah.
I mean, and they don't have an edge rusher. Uma Maline went to Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
So they just don't. They didn't go out and get an edge rusher. They didn't go out and get another running back out of the transfer portal. They've just done a bad job managing that roster, especially, from a portal perspective for me. And so I just think Billy's done. I like the guy a lot, but they may not fire him today. But, I mean, how many people over under are going to be in the stands for that game against Mississippi State?
Wow.
Talking about a turd being laid last night. Holy Toledo. You knew I'd do that.
I see what you're doing there. Maybe not quite as bad as lose. Well, it was worse.
That is worse. It was worse
than Vanderbilt going on the road. And
I listened. I did. I was so excited. They rallied. There was a little over a minute over.
Turnovers.
And it's like 32-29. They even hit the 2-point conversion. I'm like, all you need is one stop and you escape and you don't Vandy this thing. And they went down the field like 75 yards or so in like freaking 30 seconds. I mean, it wasn't even, it was just like not even.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad. I was like, Vandy's still Vandy. I mean, Chris Lee, he told the truth. He said, well, it would be like Vandy to go on the road and blow one against, Georgia State.
36-32 is that final. That was ugly. Yeah, but not uglier than Holy Toledo. That is.
No, I did not listen to any of that.
No, I know. I really. I feel bad for our boy Matt over there, having to be a part of that. 41-17, and it wasn't close.
No, it was 35-3 at the start of the second half.
When it blew up, I chose to go over. I think it was on the it was ESPNU.
Yeah, and
I went over there and saw it. It was not a fluke. Toledo was just pushing around Mississippi State.
And guys were running wide open. I mean, they're Mississippi State's defense is
what is LSU from last year.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's atrocious. I mean, good grief. I
feel like we're doing what we usually do after the Bama recap, we'll keep on trucking right here. But we will talk some Bama football in particular, presented by Lawlers BBQ. Appreciate the fine folks at Lawlers BBQ for allowing us to be here every Sunday. So let's go to the Auburn Tigers. And they got their new shiny toy, but it wasn't the cleanest of starts for the Auburn Tigers against the Lobos. They were down 3-0 right out of the gate. They win at 45-19, but that team is better than Mississippi State. Yeah. But I coming off of what Arkansas came off against UAB and that game coming up this Saturday, I can't wrap my head around it. I really can't.
Steve, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you my power rankings here.
Oh, please.
Yes. I had to send these to Brent Zvarneman of the Houston Chronicle last night.
Yep.
He said, everybody, don't forget to send in your power rankings. And
wait a second, you had Vanderbilt, I think, like 8th last week.
They sure as hell aren't now. Here, and we had a shake up at the top, Steve. I had to. I'm sorry.
The other UT.
Now, if my prediction, which I did wear on social media, I said I thought this would be 50. I just really did. I thought.
Oh, I didn't.
I thought Kentucky, even though their defense is good, I thought their offense would be
to me last week.
So bad. I just thought.
I thought it was the perfect storm, and I thought Kentucky would play their best game. And Georgia wouldn't, and they found a way to win. Georgia should not have won that game.
No, but I just really thought it would be, if not 50, I thought it'd be just a beat down. Because I've seen some beat downs in Lexington by Georgia before. But I will say this, I'm not really that impressed with Georgia's skill guys offensively so far from what I've seen. Now, they had to replace some great players.
Arian Smith is decent.
But I haven't seen another receiver that I just thought, okay, that's a dude. I haven't seen somebody – Delp is a pretty good tight end, but he ain't Brock Bowers. We know that.
No, nobody is.
And then ETN's a good back, but he's not like, Nick Chubb. He's not somebody.
When he wants to go, then he's got to have that want when he runs the football. You can see the difference.
Yeah.
I can.
Well, I mean, he's definitely the best they have, but to me, he's not a first or second or third round draft pick right now. I don't see the dude that, that Georgia's had some dudes. And I just
Lovett is occasionally a guy.
And Branson Robinson's all right. I mean, he had the touchdown run last night that won the game, but I haven't been overly that impressed with him. And then because of that, Carson Beck is good, but I mean, is he a Heisman good? I don't know, because he wasn't really able to make a lot of plays last night, but some of that has to do with your supporting cast and getting open and things,
Well, right now, if you had to redo our SEC two deep at quarterback, I'd go Jackson Dart as well as the Texas quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But I think Jalen Milroe, those are all quarterbacks that right now I think they're ahead of Carson Beck.
Well, here's my rankings.
Yep.
Now Texas. That we saw Arch Manning, and I got to give Mike Detillier a shout out. He kept saying, Drew, he's a much better athlete than his uncles. And he can now we never saw his uncles run 75 yards.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
I think the longest run for Peyton, by the way, at Tennessee was 13 yards.
That's what I'm saying.
13 yards.
Because he gave the guy a little shake, and then he was out the gate. So it was UTSA.
I guess that skips a generation there in the Manning team.
No, so his father, remember,
Arch.
but Cooper was a wide receiver. So,
that's right. That's right.
He has some of that athleticism.
Maybe.
So, and then he threw the ball like a Manning. I mean, like I told somebody last night, and they get so many of my friends are Manning haters. They just hate him because
Why?
They beat Alabama during their careers.
Oh,
but I'm like,
they're good for the game.
They are. I said
they are.
I said Mannings are bust proof. That's why I wanted Arch Manning to go to Alabama. They're bust proof. There's no way they bust. Okay. I mean, they're first pick in the draft type good. Okay, and so that's why I'm sitting there. So there were some people that saw him in high school. Well, he didn't look all that great. He's playing at a small private school in New Orleans. I'm just telling you. You know.
Okay, so number 1 is Texas. Number
1
2
is Texas.
Georgia.
No, number 2 is Alabama because they went on the road at a Big Ten school and they mudholed them by 30. 3 is Georgia.
Here we go.
Because Georgia had to survive. Georgia was 20 yards from losing. I mean, that dang kicker had made a 51 and a 55-yarder, and Kentucky can't come up with a way to complete a effing forward pass when they're at midfield. I mean, that was a joke. They were trying to throw screens and all this crap and getting it deflect. I mean, it was if you had a trick play in your bag, you should have used it.
Yeah.
I mean, but that Stoops has never been able to figure out offense anyway. So like I tweeted, sorry, Jeff from the Bar, there ain't no moral victories. You're not going to the playoff again, and it's another L. So, but anyway, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, left them in the same place. Run up the score, Tennessee, left them in 5th because hearing all this onside kicking when you're up 30. If I were the head coach of the other team, Josh Heupel would get cussed out right in front of everybody. I'd call him every name in the book and tell him he was a classless piece of trash, he is, and I'm calling him on this show. He's trash.
Why was that necessary?
It's not, because he's a piece of Tennessee trash. That's what he is. And then Missouri 6, Oklahoma 7.
That was a good win for Missouri.
Yes, because they were in. I thought they were in a little trouble. They came back, so I left them. But I think BOB's doing a good job with Boston College too. So 6 Missouri, 7 Oklahoma, 8 Texas A&M with their first road win since Dirtneck got fired. LSU 9 since they rallied. And then you got all these 1-2 loss teams. I had to go with South Carolina because they really should have beat LSU, but they did not.
No, they didn't.
South Carolina 10, Auburn 11, Kentucky 12, Arkansas 13, Florida 14, Vandy 15, and the Mississippi State Bulldogs. You know, what was that commercial with was it Chevy's or Dodge, like a rock, or whatever the hell it was? They're falling like a rock. So they're 16th for the second straight week, and they earned it in spades. So that's my SEC rankings. I gave Alabama some credit because they won by over 30 on the road, and they covered. That's why I jumped them over Georgia. If Georgia had won like I thought they were going to, they would have been number 1 because I was not anticipating dropping them.
Yeah.
But they had to survive. And then I thought about 2, but then I thought, nah. If Alabama had played a directional school or somebody like Louisiana Monroe and won by 40, I would have had Georgia too. But Alabama beat Wisconsin. I respect Luke Fickell, and I think they're still going to be a pretty good football team. And then I also looked around at what South Florida did yesterday and Western Kentucky.
Yeah,
that's
I
another
did too. Yeah, that's
long black day for Jeff from the Borough as Middle Tennessee gets blown out by 30 by Western Kentucky.
Yep.
And also he has to pay for saying that Wisconsin might beat Alabama. We'd still be out there, Jeff, and they still wouldn't be beating Alabama. Matter of fact, Van Dyke, if he had been healthy, they would not have beaten Alabama.
Well, I'm sure that's what you're going to hear. But anyway.
Yeah. Just like Colt McCoy, right?
Phone lines are open for you as we're walking you up to an NFL triple header, by the way, here on this Sunday. 256-576-4977, the telephone number. Diving a little bit more in, it was a more promising start offensively for the Alabama Crimson Tide, but as we've already talked about, that missed field goal opportunity. But then coming off of the turnover on downs, it was a 4-play drive, very efficient, 60 yards into the end zone. It was 7-3 before you knew it.
That really was. And Alabama has gotten off to slow starts in every game offensively, but it usually hasn't taken them long to get their bearings, and they certainly did. And Jalen Milroe did a great job with his legs and with his arm and getting things going.
Yeah.
And I thought the game plan was good. I know some people were wondering why Justice Haynes wasn't in more, but he caught 3 passes. He got 2 rushes. You have to go back and look at it. Like, Jam only got 9 carries.
Yeah.
But he broke a long touchdown run, and he got 71 yards. A lot of the running game was built around Milroe and his mobility, and it gave Wisconsin a lot of problems. And again, it's in game 1 against Western Kentucky, we saw Justice only got 4 carries, but he had 102 yards because he got an 85-yard touchdown run. That's going to be the key for Georgia in 2 weeks. You got to keep Alabama from making explosive plays because Alabama is explosive. And I thought they had a chance to be. I told you this in the preseason because guess what? Magic is real.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they kept talking about all these other freshman wide receivers. Hey, wake up.
It was the first time I've seen him get tackled. It was on that little bubble screen there.
Well,
on the
and then they gave him a shot to return a punt, and he nearly took that to the house.
Yeah.
He took it 20 yards, and thank goodness when he got twisted on that, whatever they call turf in Wisconsin, he didn't get injured because that's the other thing to talk about. Alabama suffered some injuries. Now, their offensive line, we finally saw the 5 guys they've been wanting to put out there, and then Alabama only got 4 penalties. And I think
that's right.
Only one was on the offensive line. It was on Booker.
Right. That's right.
So I thought the offensive line play was improved. I thought they controlled the line of scrimmage. And then I said,
and no turnovers.
And I said if they didn't turn it over and didn't commit a lot of penalties, Wisconsin had no chance. And that's basically what happened. And Luke Fickell told you.
And once again, second week in a row where Fox turns it into the SEC report rather than the Big Ten report. But anyway,
I mean, nobody's wanting to watch that. I mean,
that's why I was wondering when Fox bought that, SEC network, and I always thought it was an ESPN. By the way, I'm really glad I was able to watch ESPN television yesterday. That was resolved.
Yeah, Freddie Kirby was happy about that. I told him, I said, well, they were probably losing subscribers every day. So you have to hurry up and settle that really quick.
I was
He
this
was
close. I was this close.
I had other friends that did go ahead and pull the trigger for YouTube.
I was going to give it like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So anyway,
let's
head out to the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Good Sunday morning. Who's this? You're on the Bama Recap Show.
Johnny Osell.
How are
What's
you,
up, Johnny?
Hey, man. What not to like about yesterday, right? Except for that injury that came to the young running back at near the end of the game.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 of them. Don't forget Rusall. Don't forget Rusall.
Yeah. I mean, the thing, I didn't like playing on turf, obviously, but
right,
dude. Okay, so looking at our defense, just about all the long scoring drives have averaged about 3.1 yards a play, where teams have gone for it on 4th down and gotten, they've kept themselves on the field, but nobody has just like lined up and blown us off the ball and said down the field. I mean, those plays have taken 17 plays to go 80-something yards, 19 plays. I mean, you're talking about weeping and gnashing of teeth kind of things where, they're just, this defense is pretty salty. I'm pretty down with Womack and what he's got going on that side of the ball, as well as, I always felt like offensively we had a big upside, coming away from the kid from Notre Dame that called it last year. I mean, huge, better offensive skills as far as planning the plays and calling plays. I'm very, 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 and after seeing Georgia look pedestrian against UK, that same UK that got the eyes beat out of them by South Carolina. I mean, I know everybody can have a bad day, but Georgia comes in with that game and that game plan, and Beck can't do it. And I'm telling you, I always felt that Beck got bailed out a bunch by Bowers and McConkin. If they don't have anybody that can make those plays like those guys were doing, I don't think Georgia survives Texas. I don't think they survive us. I think Georgia's not the team in Atlanta this year.
Well, they also got to play Ole Miss, but they'll play better against Alabama. I mean, you heard Kirby after the game. I was listening to him. He's like, well, hopefully this is going to wake these guys up, and they understand what they've got, ahead of them. And they're going to get – Alabama's going to get their best shot. But I will say this. I like the matchup, in Tuscaloosa. I mean, before the game, I had a Georgia fan hollering at me on X saying that Alabama better enjoy their win because they're fixing to get, the blank beat out of them in 2 weeks. And this is before you're, having to hope that they don't complete a 20-yard pass.
I thought it was going to be a rock fight. I really did.
Against Kentucky. But
I did.
Again, like I said, it's going to be
it's going to be a great matchup. I really do.
It's going to be a great game. Yeah. But, I certainly – and, of course, his rationale was, well, Georgia will no longer lose to Alabama because Nick Saban's not there. And I'm like, hey, Georgia, have you looked at the history of the rivalry even before Nick Saban? You didn't have a whole lot of success. Gene Stallings lost to you one time, but,
Musa Smith.
Yeah, there you go. So
I mean,
hadn't had a whole lot of
17
success
games
historically.
under
Wish Cecil
500
was here.
Against Alabama. There's 17 games under 500 against Alabama. They could win every matchup between now and 2040, and they still wouldn't be at 500 to us.
Right. So, it
look,
is what it is.
But, yeah, I mean, for all those fans who were thinking that the boogeyman was gone in Tuscaloosa, he just changed hats, brother.
Yep.
He just changed hats.
My mantra has been from the beginning that Michael Myers was played by different people. And so you better, keep talking and trying to, cash checks that your ass.
Oh no,
can't
it's
cash.
very impressive.
But I mean, if you want to just keep yakking and thinking, you're going in there and it's going to be a beat down. Well, it ain't going to be a beat down. It's going to be a hell of a football game. But Alabama can more than hold their own, because right now I wouldn't trade Georgia's running back room for Alabama's. I wouldn't trade their wide receiver room for Alabama's. I wouldn't trade their offensive line for Alabama's. I wouldn't trade their quarterback for Alabama's. Now maybe they're better on defense than Alabama because they haven't given up a touchdown all
depends
friggin'
if
season.
99 shows up or not.
But, so Alabama's going to have to move the ball. But Alabama has the kind of explosive playmakers that potentially they could make Georgia pay. So, again, I like Alabama right now. Maybe the only place I'd give them the edge is place kicker. I think Woodring is good. I don't know about Alabama's yet, but I think Alabama's got a great punter.
At the end of the day, though, I mean, Clemson it doesn't have the playmakers on the outside. Kentucky doesn't really have a lot of playmakers on the. I mean, Kentucky beat the crap out of Georgia's interior. They were getting 6-7 yards to carry.
Oh yeah, zero. I love
zero.
Zero.
Early. It was a different in the fourth quarter.
It wasn't much different. I mean, Kentucky left that game on the field. They had a chance to win it. They just, they electrocuted themselves for lack of a better term. But I mean, at the end of the day, Kentucky's got to feel like that game should have been won by them. And the fact that they didn't punch it in the end zone, that's kind of on coaching, not necessarily what was. I didn't like the call down there when they took the three, when they had a chance to. It was like a fourth and manageable, 4th and 3. They took a field goal. I was like, if you want to beat Georgia, you got to get a touchdown.
Yeah.
And they didn't. So you can kind of put it back on the staff. But I don't think Georgia has seen anywhere close to explosive athletes that we have on the wide out.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Georgia gave up 170 yards rushing. So Kentucky did run the ball much better than I thought they would. That's why I thought the game would be a blowout, because I wasn't sure Kentucky could run it on them without having the threat of a pass at all. And they were
a
able
little
to run
bit better than I thought in the fourth quarter. They ran it for 46 yards.
Yeah.
10 carries for an average of 4.6 per carry.
I'll just call him Demi. Yeah. Demi was impressive, Zero. He was slippery, made himself small, and slipped through some holes. Never made a super explosive run, but he was able to move the chains and give Kentucky a chance. But you can't beat anybody of substance when you're 14 of 28 for 114 yards through the air. That's just not going to cut it. Kentucky needed the old Gene Stallings. They needed 175 yards passing, and they needed to be like 20 of 28. And they couldn't be more efficient and make a play.
Georgia won't be able to put 8 men in the box and go one-on-one on the outside.
If they do, I like Alabama's chances. Go ahead and try to cover them one-on-one. But I think they'll zone it up. They'll try to confuse Milroe. And if Milroe turns it over, it's going to be a long day for Alabama. But if Milroe makes the right reads, I think Georgia's going to try to, hem him in the pocket and try to keep him from using his legs. But the thing about it is that Alabama's got weapons around him. If you try to hem up Milroe, I think the running backs could maybe get loose, especially in the flats.
Williams.
And then you've got the outside threats. And Kirby, his defenses have always struggled against teams that can throw the ball vertically and have talent outside. That's the one weakness that his team has shown.
It's a very complimentary offense.
But Georgia's really good on D again. I'll give them credit for there. Alabama's going to have to play well, and that's how they won it last year. They played well up front against Georgia,
mashed them,
and then Milroe played well, and they kind of let him sit back there, and he made plays with his feet and enough with his arm, and he outplayed Carson Beck, which a lot of people really don't talk about. They sort of just sweep that under the rug. I guess they think it was a fluke. Maybe it was. But again, right now, I like Alabama over Georgia. I didn't at the start of the season, but I sure as hell do right now. Bring them on.
Yeah, I don't think Beck all that in a bag of chips myself, but we'll see.
It's what I said last night. You want it? Come get it. Alabama's not going anywhere.
Bring it, baby. All right.
Man. Thank you, Johnny. You know what? This is the Sunday after, and I know this is like our Super Bowl 2-week buildup because both teams are going through a bye. I think this is going to be one of the classic games. I really do.
Well, I do too.
I think it's going to be fantastic.
A beat down in T-Town with Georgia rolling all over Alabama, I don't see that. I see it being a four-quarter battle.
No. My apologies. The transfer did not work right there. Whoever called, feel free to call in. Well, we'll hear from Kalen DeBoer coming up on the other side of this timeout. It is the Bama Recap Show presented by Lawlers Barbecue right here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Log on today, 977ESPN.com.
Here in North Alabama, barbecue is a part of what makes our home so special, and great barbecue from Lawlers makes it just that much better. Since 1978, Lawlers has been serving up their delicious barbecued pork, ribs, chicken, ham, and turkey for generations of family get-togethers. Recognized as the best barbecue joint in Alabama for 2 years in a row, Lawlers is thrilled to share their award-winning barbecue for your next family meal or catered event. Order online or stop by any one of their 14 area locations. Lawlers Barbecue, cooked slow, served fast.
It's the dawning of a new age in Tuscaloosa.
I understand what Alabama football is all about. Roll time.
Join the Crimson Tide as the Kalen DeBoer era begins.
Touchdown!
Join us next Saturday as the Crimson Tide battle the Georgia Bulldogs and the SEC opener at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Our coverage begins at 3:30 on your home for Alabama football.
Listen to Alabama football all season long on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Normally, when you call a roofing company, all you hear is, you need a new roof. Not when you call Fleming Roofing and Restoration. Since 1965, the folks at Fleming have been focused on what you need, whether it's an easy repair or a full roof replacement, commercial or residential. And when it comes to storm damage, you want Fleming on your side. They know all the ins and outs of insurance claims and will guide you through the entire process. Log on FlemingHSV.com and book your free estimate today. Fleming Roofing and Restoration. We show up.
At Mr. Sparky, we're America's on-time electrician. Flickering lights and hot switches can be annoying, but they can also signal a major problem, or worse, an electrical emergency. So play it safe and leave it to the experts at Mr. Sparky. Trust our team of professional, clean, and friendly electricians. We'll get it done right and get it done safely.
You don't have to put up with any malarkey. Call 888-8-Sparky.
Independently owned and operated, licensed in the respective state or county.
Rocket City Federal Solutions, LLC is committed to streamlining engineering solutions for all aspects of installations and facilities construction and management worldwide with expertise and precision. These guys are great Americans, helping to keep us safe everywhere from right here in the Tennessee Valley. The team at Rocket City Federal Solutions is headed by CEO Jason Larson, and they have over 35 years combined experience handling projects all over the world. Learn more at RocketCityFederalSolutions.com. That's RocketCityFederalSolutions.com.
It is the Bama Recap Show presented by Lawlers Barbecue. Good Sunday morning to you. Welcome in to the Bama Recap Show presented by Lawlers Barbecue right here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. Alabama a winner 42-10 over the Wisconsin Badgers. Third overall meeting between the two as Bama now holds a 2-1 edge. Went through a little bit. Ty Simpson got into the game as well. He was 4 of 5 for 30 yards. Looked decent, but it was the run game. 34 carries total for 181 yards. 3 touchdowns, 2 of them by Jalen Milroe. Let's head up to the land of cheese. Brandon joins us from Wisconsin. Are you heading to the Packer game?
No, I'm not headed to the Packer game. We did the tour on Friday. We went up there and went all throughout the stadium and done all that. We're going to head to the airport and head back about 2 p.m. We're at the 3rd Street Market Hall sitting here eating some Smoking Jack's barbecue because
I just saw the menu. What'd you get, man?
I got the 2 meat. I got the chicken and the brisket. and then
Nice.
got potato salad to beans.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah, Molton's seeing it now.
Yeah.
Look at Molton. He's so hungry.
There you go. There you go. I don't know how well you can see that on WZZM TV.
So how good was it, Brandon? I mean, you're sitting there eating it. So how would you rate it? I'm going to give you a Roll Tide Willie here.
Not as good as Lawlers.
No. Not as good as Lawlers on any day. But I'd give it a 3.7 out of a 5. I think it's pretty decent. It's pretty good. And I really like the building here because we're on River Street.
Right.
And these buildings are, I guess, they're old manufacturing buildings, but you can walk through them in a skywalk fashion and you never have to go out on the street. And this 3rd Street Market Hall has been converted. There's like 25 different restaurants. You can walk over here and get barbecue, you get rotisserie chicken, you can get pie. They've got a self-serve beer wall with about 40 taps on it. You just get a glass and you can just keep getting glasses so you either look like those Wisconsin fans in that picture I sent you where they're laid out in the 3rd quarter waiting for jump around, and you do whatever you want.
Well, I'm showing all our listeners your picture, Brandon. I really appreciate that for what it looked like after jump around when somebody's passed out drunk on the
Did you send that to
on
me,
the
Brandon?
Blazers. Yeah, sure. I'll send that to Steve Moulton here. That's a good picture, Brandon.
That's about 2 minutes into the 3rd quarter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this guy's just laid out, and people are like, were we staying for jump around? They're like, yeah. And then, like you said, as soon as that happened, gone. Dude, they were running like roaches when the light come on. I looked around, and I was like, golly, these people are taking off out of here. But I felt like that running the ball between the tackles yesterday, early, I felt like they ran the ball better than us doing that. But Milroe was just so effective with his legs that they just didn't have any answer for it.
And this is brought to you by Pilcher's Appraisals. This picture everybody's now getting to see as Steve Moulton showing everybody that this was before jump around. This guy was already passed out.
Yeah, we went and got in line. Their concourses are so narrow that you cannot move. It took us from about 10. It took us from about
Fire Marshal know about this?
Uh-oh.
God, I don't know. You can't move. Like it was unbelievable that it took us from 5 minutes in the 2nd quarter all the way through halftime to that 2 minutes into the 3rd quarter. That's how long it took us just to get a drink.
That is insane.
You can't move. You have to shove your way through people. It's wall-to-wall people. And that was the only thing I detested about it. We pulled up. We drove up to the stadium like 22 minutes before kickoff.
Oh, wow.
And I told my son, I said, we're going to find somewhere to park. There's a lot of houses around here. And there was a guy standing there, and he's like, you want to park? And he said, yeah, right here. And I said, where, in your flower bed? He was like, bring it on. So, I mean, we were almost on his front porch for $25. So, and we were 200 feet from the stadium gate. So it couldn't have worked. It couldn't have worked out any better. But, I mean, the people there were nice. I got along with most everybody there. A lot of people very disgruntled and been getting a lot of hey Alabamas from everybody walking around. Because like, we ordered food, and the guy's like, hey, Alabama, your food's ready. So that's when you come up here, that's what you are.
Yeah. Well.
But the Boathouse restaurant in Madison on the water is beautiful.
Wow.
Really good cheese curds. Eat a whole basket of them. I'm probably not going to eat for about 3 days when I get home because I've eaten so much up here that probably protein shakes and water for a few days. But
Brandon, you can take that on. You're good. You're good.
And I hope Bo had a good time, man. That's a good one right there.
Man, he had an amazing time. We went up there and petted those wolves and got face to face.
That was crazy. I saw some of the pictures of those wolves, man. Wow.
Them things in person, when you stand there nose to nose and look one in the eye, that is some cracked out mess right there. Like I never thought I'd see the days I'd see a full size 100-pound wolf and just look him nose to nose in the eye and just pet him on the head. Just life experience. That's all.
And little did you know, the Wisconsin football team practically did the same thing.
They did. And we sat there last night and watched that Toledo game. We watched it.
Why would you do that to yourself?
Well, they had a bunch of TVs in the lobby at the hotel where we were at. I was really surprised at the amount of TVs they had. I had a lot of ball games on.
Yeah.
And they had this little evening kickback thing where, people get a drink and they get some nachos and all this stuff. Really good at the Renaissance Hotel here on Wisconsin Avenue was really great. Wisconsin and Michigan Avenue, it was fantastic. So I had a good time up here. Thought the weather was great. Flying into Milwaukee at, I don't know, 12:45 at night, the entire airport's closed. It's not like Atlanta at all. You show up and you're the last flight coming in.
Yep.
But I recommend if you ever get a chance to come up here in this cooler type weather they're having right now, come up here and enjoy yourself. It'd sure be stay at home for a hurricane.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time, man. I'm glad the Tide played well.
We dodged a few of the raindrops down
We
here.
had a lot of rain on Friday here, Brandon. That's where it basically hit us. And it had to hit us but about 6 p.m. until about 11 o'clock. But, hey, I got to give another shout-out to Justin Carter.
Yeah.
He saved us. Steve, you remember that experience we had when the great folks over at Athens saved us?
Oh, yeah.
This was an even bigger tent than that.
Was it really?
We had him under there, Justin with his setup, ourselves, some of his family. We had several people underneath there with us, and we were, for the most part, perfectly dry. Now, our bag was a little damp on the outside there, but the equipment we kept dry. And if I will say this, without the tent, it's an unmitigated disaster, okay? Now, they offered us tarps, but we really didn't need them over there at JC. They were nice to us. But it's a great – I'll say this, even if it doesn't rain, I would like to set up like that again when Huntsville plays Bob Jones and just use a freaking tent because at least then you can keep the bugs off of you. I mean, yeah, who knows how cold it'll be or whatnot. It was actually a really good setup, man. And I got to give Justin a lot of credit. And credit to James Clemens, our Bryant Bank Team of the Week. They prove why as they hammered Huntsville pretty good. Huntsville 32-7 loss, but Crimson Panthers competed hard. You realize the measuring stick of the region is James Clemens right now, and where how far you got to come. But Brandon, I'm glad you got a chance to go, man. I'm glad the food was good and the people were nice, and Alabama burned their house down.
Well, y'all got Grace and Nello to help you keep forward on the weather going forward, and I'm sure you won't have any problem paying attention. So roll tide.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, roll tide.
Thank you, Brandon. Safe travels. We are walking you up to a triple header of football here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. And, by the way, if you want to check out the Braves and Dodgers game, that'll be over on Talk Radio tonight. Talk Radio WZZN, that's our HD.2 channel as the Braves and Dodgers series continues. But we've got, let's see here, the Colts at the Packers. That's followed by the Rams at the Cardinals. And then later on tonight, it's the Bears at the Texans, all right here.
I'll just say, while I was watching SEC football after the Tide rolled, nothing was finer than following the Braves on social media as they clubbed the hated Dodgers over the head.
So they won the series. Well, I'm sorry, that they've at least split the series. I think they have two more games.
No. Oh, no, they are playing two more?
I think
they're
playing today and tomorrow.
They are playing on Monday?
I think so. From what yes, they are playing the Dodgers tomorrow.
Gotcha.
By the way, that game tomorrow is also on Talk Radio, WZZN, as we'll have coverage of the Falcons and Eagles.
Well,
right after Crimson Tide.
I just got to say this. Chris Sale better win the Cy Young.
I mean,
how does he not?
That was a heck of a pickup there for Alex Anthopoulos.
What did I say? I said if he was healthy, it would be a great move because that's really the only thing that's stopped Chris Sale over the years.
So we are expecting – I'm expecting, Drew said as much, that Florida could be in a situation where their head coach could be let go as early as today. Florida is at Mississippi State coming up on Saturday. Your other conference matchups, Vanderbilt is at Missouri. Arkansas is at Auburn. And Tennessee is at Oklahoma. Those are your conference matchups coming up this weekend in SEC play. And for Auburn and Arkansas, they both did not look stellar yesterday. Both at home, both in non-conference games, both losing at one point.
Well, it was 17-3 UAB at one point, and Taylon Green was like 3 for 12. I mean, it was
bad.
Yeah, it was really bad.
But I do not know why Arkansas plays better on the road under Pittman rather than at home.
And but lately they haven't played well against Auburn at all.
No.
So
I don't know what to think about that matchup because Auburn defensively looked bad against New Mexico.
Yeah, they were out of position
tackling.
a lot.
Yes, out of position. It's I don't know what to think about this matchup. I really don't. Between Auburn and Arkansas, Tennessee, Oklahoma should be a very good matchup.
Yeah, and of course, if he's trying to onside kick up 30 to send Oklahoma a message, I'm just telling you, dude, karma gonna get you.
Oof.
And I thought that was Bush League. I mean, completely. And then running it up, scoring 71 points. I mean, that doesn't impress anybody.
No.
Okay.
No.
We'll see if you can play big boy football coming up, Tennessee. Are you a fraud or are you for real? Now, their fans are writing checks and maybe their ass can't cash, thinking they're going to rout, Alabama, that they're probably going to rout Oklahoma. We'll see. I think Nico's a very talented young man.
I think so, too.
Most hyped since Peyton Manning, even more so than Hendon Hooker, who I loved. But we'll see. We'll see if Josh Heupel's the real deal. There's a lot of people like Andy Staples saying that he is. That Tennessee got the coaching search right. They lost 4 games last year, guys, and they played nobody. Do you understand me? NC State is not better than Western Kentucky. Just sit there and remember I said that. NC State is not any good, okay? They should have thrashed NC State.
Yeah.
We'll see how good the Vols
And it was
are.
NC State turning over the football. Anyway, both Georgia and Alabama are off this week. Here's a little bit of what Kirby had to say after the 1-point win in Lexington.
Yeah, I felt like it was a bend but don't break kind of scenario. Kept giving up plays, but the one thing I thought Schumann and Stevens' staff did a tremendous job game planning. I thought he called a really good game. He helped our players. A couple of drives or penalties would have been punts and not 3 points, and I think the game would have been better for us. But I'm proud of the way they played. They bowed their neck when they had to, and we took away a lot of shots. They are a shot team, and they have extremely fast wideouts. And I thought we covered the shots well.
That is a little bit of Kirby Smart. I have yet to play Kalen DeBoer. Here is the Crimson Tide head coach, the undefeated Crimson Tide head football coach, who has now started his Bama career 3-0.
Yeah, I thought they just did a consistent job of making sure Jalen, could stay upright, wasn't rushed, hurried. It's amazing how your play calls can just be so much easier, and you're in down and distances that much more favorable when you can protect your quarterback and make every throw count. Where there's not throwaways where you're getting hit, and I thought there was just good gelling, considering it was really their first game action altogether. And then, between running backs and Jalen, just finding the different ways to attack with the run game, and they just opened up the seams, and I felt like really not any missed assignments. I'm sure there's something in there that we'll find, but when it came to run the football, just getting those big bodies all working together, and whatever play was called, I felt like they were, in sync and giving us a chance, and then letting Jam. And I know Jam had a big game, and then Jalen as well. So I liked the balance of what we were able to do, both run and pass, and that starts up front.
That is Coach Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, I would definitely give Milrow a game ball, Jam Miller, Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Josh Cuevas, and then the offensive line as a whole. I thought those were your standouts offensively for Alabama that played on that side of the ball. Defensively, I got to give LT Overton a game ball. I thought that guy was a war daddy up front, and he made the quarterback feel him early.
Mm-hmm.
And Wisconsin was very fortunate that wasn't a turnover, but he hit the QB. He was consistent against the run, did a nice job. I thought Q Robinson, once again, third straight game with a sack for Q. And now with the injury situation, we haven't talked about that. But, the one with Quay Russo looked bad at first. Now, I started hearing last night that he was in a boot, maybe not a knee brace. So potentially maybe it's an ankle situation. Still think he's going to be out a few weeks, but maybe not season ending, which would be big for Alabama. Certainly Richard Young, third string running back, was running the ball well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he had an ankle situation. And then Malachi Moore ran into his own teammate. It was a concussion. Luckily, Alabama has a bye. He should be able to be ready because they're going to need him against Georgia.
Yeah.
You got to have an experienced guy back there for what Georgia, because Georgia, I think they've been somewhat vanilla. They're going to empty the holster against Alabama. They're going to use whatever they have to do. They have an experienced quarterback. So does Alabama. And I think you're going to get Georgia's best shot. That Georgia will have Michael Williams back. He's an outstanding defensive lineman, and it's going to be a line of scrimmage game. It's going to be whoever wins the line of scrimmage. Freddie Roach's D-line I thought was okay yesterday. Going to have to be a hell of a lot better in this next game. You got 2 weeks, Roach, to prove something and get your guys ready to go because Georgia's going to strike you. They're going to try to punk you, and they're going to try to physically whip you. So are you man enough to stand up against them? I think the offensive line can do so, but can Alabama's D-line match Georgia's physicality? Because if they do, they can beat the Dogs again.
I have yet to look if there's an updated line. If I was setting the line, I'd say Bama by 2.
2 or 3.
That would be.
They usually say 3 is the home field advantage. That would be. I think it's going to be a game to me that should come down to the last 2 minutes of the football game, and it's going to be a classic.
27-24 was the SEC championship game.
Yep.
If it's in that kind of ballpark, I would put my money on Milroe over Beck. Me personally, he's amazing. He really is.
He just got to not turn it over and be efficient. And I thought he was yesterday. I know he left a couple of plays out there, but again, he used his legs very effectively. I liked the play calling from Alabama, and I thought they went over to Wisconsin and handled business.
That is going to wrap us up here for the Bama pregame or for the Bama recap show presented by Lawlers BBQ.
And we thank Pilcher's Appraisals for being a correspondent.
Absolutely. We certainly do. Looking forward to maybe swinging by. If you're going to get a pork potato, do it on Tuesdays.
Buy one, get one free, right?
It's Tuesday there. The pork stuffers are fantastic at Lawlers BBQ. Just check them out each and every Tuesday. I think it's 2 for $16.
Is it?
I believe so.
Gotcha.
But nonetheless, it is
sorry about that.
Well worth your.
They wrap it around the whole building.
Yeah. There is no doubt about that. It'll be the 5th year in a row that Bama and Georgia will play, and we are all the beneficiaries.
And they may play 3 times.
That very well may be the case.
You never know.
It especially how this is set up.
Yeah.
We'll be back here next Sunday, even though there's a bye week. You better believe it.
The highs will hit 86 as we get into the third and fourth quarter, Mike, and that'll be a factor in a critical